Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, we have some more news coming from Key West, and to no one's surprise, we have news about Australia cruising. Okay, so an NCL ship did pull into Port B at Key West. There were about 200 people protesting nearby the arrival of the large cruise ship, which had like 1,000 passengers on it. So here we go, where we are now going, and of course it was an all organized protest. It wasn't just a spontaneous protest of people just showing up. It was completely organized by Safe Cruise, whatever they're called, who chose the pandemic to push that agenda of no cruise ships. And if you're in Key West, I could understand why you don't want your streets filled with protesters and not protesters, sorry, with cruise ship passengers and things like that. I completely can see that. I can also see the fact that the businesses there want to have the money to survive. And I saw one of the arguments was out there that we did perfectly well this year without the cruise ships during the pandemic. Yes, there's a reason for that. The reason for that was Americans weren't allowed to travel very far. They weren't allowed to travel to Europe. They weren't allowed to travel to Canada. They weren't allowed to travel to a lot of places, so people did local trips far more than they've ever done in the past. Local travel was up 81% over the pre-pandemic levels. So to rely on that to continue in the future once international travel has opened up everywhere is a little silly to think that this is exactly the way things are going to stay. So no, you can't take those numbers into consideration, and businesses know that, and they are worried in the area that they are going to lose a lot of money and have to fire and lay off a lot of people in the area. We won't know until we see what all eventually comes to pass, whether the state will intervene. There was even at one point a talk of the government in Florida erasing Key West as a government entity. There is precedent for that in the past. I don't know what the legal jumbo jargon is, but it would take it completely out of the local Key West politicians' hands. But yeah, it's becoming just a political football again, of course, with cruise ships right smack dab in the middle, people's livelihoods in the middle, people's town, the way they feel their town should remain right in the middle. And I'm not going to pick a fight in this because I don't live in an area like that. So I'll tell you right now, I'm very biased towards cruising because I love cruising, but I can see the point of some residents who don't want large crowds in their city. That's where I'm going to leave that until we hear further news. In good news, MSC has started sailing now out of Port Canaveral. They're hoping, right now they have 2 out of Miami area, and then they have 2 out of Port Canaveral area, and they're hoping to put more ships there again in the future, making their presence in Florida even larger than it is right now. They're hoping for a really strong presence going forward. Also, Hawaii has just made an agreement with a small cruise line who is best known for cruises in Alaska, Uncruise, that can hold anywhere from 20-some passengers to 80-some passengers. Very small little expedition type ship meant for getting into small areas in Alaska that the large ships can't go to. Much more personable type of adventure. They were just given permission to have Hawaiian cruises because it's under a certain limit of people and passengers and crew. So yeah, the very first cruise ship to start back in Hawaii carries about 80 passengers at full capacity. Well, I guess we can look at the bright side and consider at least it's a start. Now, Australia. Well, before I get into Australia, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button so you keep up to date with all the cruise news, all the happenings going on in cruising, from the new ships that are starting, where they're starting, any changes in protocols, when the other ships are coming into service, and just general tips and tricks that I've gained over 110 cruises. Well, and again, I'd really appreciate it. So, Australia, just a couple weeks ago, you heard the travel minister and that saying that they were hoping to see cruise ships sailing by Christmas. And the cruise industry came back and said, yeah, there's no way cruise ships are sailing by Christmas. We need a minimum 60 days to get a cruise ship up and running and prepared for cruising. And that's a very big minimum. And the more strict the place is with their supply chain and where to get, crops and food and stock and all that sort of thing, the longer that process will take. And Australia is one of the most locked down countries in the world through this pandemic. So they say 60 to 90 days is a more of a reasonable timeline. And of course, just 2 weeks after the minister came out and said, yeah, we're hoping to see Christmas, cruises around Christmas, they extended the ban on cruise ships 2 more months into February. So yeah, that's not coming anytime soon. And if you're a cruise line and they extended that ban, and now the bright side is they didn't extend it for 3 months, which has been the norm. They've normally extended it 3 months. They've only extended it 2 months. And I guess that's a sign of progress of some sort. They say that each state and area, including New South Wales and Australia, they're all working together to come up with a game plan for the restart of cruising. Trouble is, the longer they keep working on game plans that the rest of the world already have in place, pretty much. It's not like they have to rewrite the book. The book is already written. They're cruising everywhere. Just it's kind of a dumbfounding mystery if you think about it. But we have they're saying that maybe by the end of February we're going to do this, because we had to come up with a new set of rules again because of the new Omicron strain that's out there. Again, here we go with the Omicron strain that nobody knows anything about, but they're predicting the worst case scenario, so they're doing the most strict lockdown procedures that they can possibly do. So there we go again, 2 more months. And of course, if you're a cruise line, would you go about saying, well, you know what? They say they're going to open in February, so we'll set our cruise ships up for March and we'll be ready to go. So we'll spend all the money to get the crew ready, to get the ships ready, to provision it, to get it all into dry dock and get it all spiffy and looking great. Because the government said they're only extending it 2 more months. No, they're not going to prep one single ship until the government actually approves cruising and gives them a set date for opening. So that February is now going to turn into March, April, May, June, July. So yeah, I'm sorry for all the friends in Australia, but it really doesn't look like you're going to see any cruising anytime soon unless the government comes straight out and say, here's our game plan, here's when we're saying they can reopen, and it's firm. Because this we're working on it thing isn't going to make the cruise lines do any work on those ships to prepare them, because why would you? Because they said they were going to end it this month. They said they were going to end it 3 months ago. They said they were going to end it 3 months before that. So why would you spend millions of dollars to get ready when the government hasn't shown any real inkling to get the cruise industry back up in Australia, even though there's 18,000 jobs that directly rely on the cruise ship industry in Australia? Well, let me know your thoughts down below. Are you excited for uncruise in Hawaii? Will you take that up if the other cruise lines don't set sail to don't get approval for Hawaii? And when do you think Australia will ever open up again? Well, I hope you appreciate this little update. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.